Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is the continuation of my guide series. This is the nature guide. My previous guide was electric if you want to check out that one. As usual with my guides, if you check the comment section, my pinned comment is going to be shortcuts to all the different sections. If you want to skip to the healer one, single target one, whichever, they're all going to be a breakdown there in the end, as well as my regular DPS footage at the end. Because this guide's a bit longer because there's more detail with nature, what I'll do is I'll see if I can get a full uploaded DPS run, a Machine Elite or something like that, like I did with munitions, just so you can see like a full run of nature DPSing, just because I kind of cut up the footage near the end just to save some time. So we'll see if I can get a full video for you. So if you're interested in that, then you can check my subsequent videos for that. I should say as well, the rotations you'll find in this video, a lot of them were influenced or created by Kuro or Best Controller NA. He's done a lot of work with nature recently, and especially with the single target variation that you'll see that here in the guide. But beside that, guys, the overall nature is probably one of the most versatile power sets in the game. In terms of healing, it lacks a lot from revamp in terms of like an 8-man shield or like a strong burst heal compared to some of the other power sets, because this meta is more, since this meta is switched to either shield meta or like really large spike damage hits. Nature isn't the best for that. Nature is a really good support healer in terms of your healing with another power set, just because of nature having very, very good hots or heal over times. But in terms of that, nature's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness in terms of supercharges. To maintain these rotations and to maintain a good nature DPS, you really need your supercharge high at all times. You can't just go into a raid with no supercharge, because you've got to keep popping in and out of wolf. You got to go into gorilla. If you start with max gorilla, then you're hitting neovenom or carnivorous plants or something. So you need to maintain high supercharge at all time, which obviously is a weakness as well, especially if you don't have like a 160 soul cloak and artifact and stuff like that. So nature has the possibility to be a really great power set, but you need a lot of tools in the shed. Like for me, for instance, I've got 3 separate DPS heads for 3 different mods. I've got Supercharged Gorilla 3, I've got Critical Wolf Form 3, and I've got Carnage 3. So I got 3 DPS lead heads. I got 5 DPS armories. I got healing. I've got single target. I've got Wolf melee. I've got Machine Elite Wolf max range. I've got Gorilla max range. So a lot of armories, a lot of DPS heads to have this power set as versatile as it can be. Take care, guys. Enjoy. Okay, as I said, nature has a lot of different loadouts, a lot of different rotations for a lot of different situations. I'm going to try to cover as much as the generic ones here in these loadouts. So this is going to be, this is basically the rotation that I am, 80% of the time, what I use in everyday content, alerts, duos, solos, as well as regular raids. This is going to be the wolf melee rotation and loadout. So basically, I guess I could go skill points for obviously full might, full DPS crits, and the rest into health because I'm using the might artifact. In terms of gear mods, in this one, I'm using Critical Primer Wolf 3. This is just so that I maintain the crit chance with Wolf when I transform in and out of it using Supercharge. Obviously, escalating might, back, Berserker. Nature doesn't really have a fast cooldown one. The chest, use core strength just because the extended supercharge, the 5% back, does not count for Wolf as a supercharge. I'm assuming it's either bugged or just because it's too low, because it's not classified as a 50% super. It's only 25. So that's why it doesn't proc, I'm guessing, or it's bugged. But either way, there's no point to run extended supercharge because most of the time, obviously for this one, you can be running Wolf. And then obviously trinkets, artifacts, all that stays the same. So in terms of the loadout, on human form, I'm going to have Serpent Call, Vine Lash, Briar, Voracious Plants, and Harvest. That's just if I don't want to use Wolf, or I'm just haven't got my supercharge, or I'm doing like a solo or something. I've got the 3 dots, Harvest, and Voracious Plants just for some damage. But that's not obviously the main rotation. So that's what you're going to have a human, and then what you're going to have in Primal Wolf is Serpent Call, Briar, Savage Growth, Sonic Cry, Thorn Burst, and Return to Normal. Basically, the rotation, you have these 2 dots just in case when you move to the next set of ads, you can't realistically always transform back out of Wolf just for another set of ads. You're going to run into supercharge issues unless you have, a 160 Scrap of Soul Cloak. So in this case, you don't always necessarily need 3 dots or have time to put out 3 dots because ads are going to die too quickly. So we've got the 2 dots here. So obviously supercharge generator just to regen some super for Wolf, and then Briar, and then your main rotation obviously is going to be just rotating Savage Growth, Sonic Cry, and Thornburst. So we'll kind of go into the show you here. It's not necessarily okay. So in terms of the rotation, don't think of these parsers as right and wrong. What I mean by that is obviously these parsers are going to be a little bit different because so in terms of the rotation, don't necessarily take these parsers as exactly what they're going to be, because obviously I'm going to have the dots perma always refreshing on the sparring targets. You're not going to have that case in a raid necessarily. This just gives you an idea of what the parsers are capable of, with dots ticking the entire duration, obviously. So obviously in human, you're just going to go 1, 2, 3 dots, back into the Wolf, Thornburst first, and basically just going between Savage Growth, Sonic Cry, and Thorn. Turn to normal, back into Wolf, and then basically continue there. Just to refresh the Wolf procs. And then sparring targets. So essentially, you get the idea with the parser. Obviously, the first parser is going to be a bit lower. Sometimes you can get, sometimes there, as you saw, there's a delay between when I can hit my next power as Wolf and Thornburst. Sometimes that'll be instant, so obviously you're going to get a nice high parser. Other times it's going to be a bit delayed. That's why you've got the 30k, and then I jumped all of a sudden to 50k, 41k. That's when I dip down when the Wolf crits expire, back to 60k, 40k. So it's obviously going to see a little bit of fluctuation, but obviously you're still maintaining a very high parser on 3 targets, just with maintaining the Wolf crits. Obviously, you're not going to be able to transform out of Wolf every 30 seconds when the parser's good, when the Wolf crits are going to expire, but you will be able to at least maintain it somewhat. Because obviously you saw I started with full super, I used 1 Wolf, I went back into Wolf, and I'm still, 75% of my supercharge bar because I've got that 160, the Soul Cloak. So as much as you may think you can't maintain swapping in and out of Wolf, it is still feasible, as you're going to see in the raid examples, but that's essentially the rotation there for melee for burst. Okay, and for machine regular, the rotation is pretty much the exact same. Human loadout's going to be the exact same with the 3 dots, zip tie attack, and carnage. The only thing that changes is in Primal Wolf, obviously, since I can melee, I have Savage Growth, Sonic Cry, and Thornburst. You could technically put Carnage here and have that as an extra clip, and then run the critical Carnage 3 in the head. I've found that sometimes with machine, because the ads are dying so quick on the sides, another ad doesn't come out in time for you to spread your dots to it, and then your dots drop. And then you're stuck transforming back to human to set up your 3 dots again on the ads, and then going back into Wolf, which can be a real drain on the supercharge. Even myself with max supercharge, it was still becoming a drain. So I decided to put 1 dot on this just in case those situations happen. I can still put a dot out, get a little bit extra supercharge, and then go into my rotation, which is still going to be fine just with the 1 dot and that in those situations. So it may not happen, but just in case it does, this is why it's here. If it doesn't, then I would put Carnage in here, run the critical Carnage 3 head, and then do exactly as before and just use Carnage as a clipping move. So in this term, I'm going back to the other head, which is the critical Primal Wolf 3. and that's what I'm going to typically run there. So I can show you essentially what it looks like here. It's going to be the exact same concept. Putting out dots, zip tie clip just for a little bit extra damage. And if it's becoming an issue, go back into Wolf. And I'm starting running power there, but obviously you can get the idea there. 60k, 40k, 43k, 54k, 44k, all on 8 targets, melee. So it's, obviously you get the idea with that rotation as well, what it's capable of going back in and out of Wolf for raids like that. So I'm maintaining high single target damage with the heat vision, which other power sets like electric, where AoE is not going to be able to match, even with melee. Even like DPS like Earth with jackhammering, I'm still maintaining high single target damage using heat vision, but still maintaining all the AoE because of the solar flame or the solar amplifier 160 explosion proc, as well as my 3 heavy hitter melee powers. Okay, so for this next rotation, this is going to be for raids where you've still got to maintain max distance. And you have to have focus on single target. So raids like Machine Elite, range like SSE Final Boss, stuff like that, where there's a high single target boss fight, but there's also ads. You could use this at Hive Elite as well. I find, especially for Machine Elite, it's a lot better to use Wolf than it is Gorilla because I can constantly switch in the bosses on single target. I can apply the 3 dots to Hive Master, go into Wolf, etc., and maintain the Wolf crits. So that's why I have this rotation. So essentially, the loadout is still going to be the same. It's always going to be 3 dots. I have zip tie attack and carnage just because I clip it together just for a little bit extra damage and to have carnage because I'm running the head mod. At least I should have it here. Oh, I have the wrong head. There we go. So the main difference is I have the critical carnage 3 in this loadout because A for the wolf melee taps, just for a little bit extra damage, and B for the head mod critical carnage because I don't want to use the critical wolf 3 just because A, I have melee distance, so it's not going to apply as much, and this way I can constantly maintain that high crit, the crit percentage. So like I said, 3 dots, zip tie attack, and carnage clip just for a little bit extra damage, going to Wolf. And then once I'm in Wolf, I have heat vision. Then I'm going to use Voracious Plants, Harvest, and then this one, I have throwing knives and carnage. You've got some options. You could technically run like Robot Sidekick. You could run Swarm. I feel like Swarm doesn't do that good damage at all. It splits pretty bad on A+ targets. Robot Sidekick is an option. It's a little bit annoying because A, you've got to resummon it if it dies, and B, Robot Sidekick's range damage is not that good. It's about 60k-ish every minute, where throwing knives is about 20k every time you use it on A targets. And then you're clipping it every 12 seconds with carnage. So technically, every minute you're doing it 5 times 20, 100k. So technically it should be more damage than Robot Sidekick math-wise. But this is what the rotation is going to look like here. So I've got my 3 dots. Going to Wolf. And then obviously the fucking Wolf that's annoying. And then I'm heat visioning. 1, 2, 3. Harvest. Back in heat vision. Flip this. 1, 2, 3. Back in heat vision. Then I'm going to harvest right after heat vision. Back into stuff. Cool. as you can see there. And obviously you can swap back out a wolf just to get the crit bust again. So go back up here. When wolf started, 53k parse range. That's even more than electric is doing. Electric I was only doing 45k, and that's 53k with the wolf a crit and 8s. And then 42, 39, obviously it starts to dip a little bit below that. 25 is when it was a bit slower. So obviously at that point you could, go back out a wolf and keep going. But in Machine Elite, I'll throw in some footage as well at the end so you can see it. But it maintains a nice rotation, and then you have the ability to always. It's the same rotation when Hive Master's out. You're still using the exact same rotation as you just saw there, but it's nice because you get to maintain the heat vision single target damage, as well as you're getting the AoE damage, obviously from your dot spreading with Harvest and Voracious Plants, and you're keeping the Carnage crit buff up. So it's a nice versatile loadout, especially for raids like Machine. And Elite Nature will do very well in that situation. Okay, so I should include a Gorilla rotation as well. It's just because usually Gorilla is going to be what you want to do for max range, just because obviously the Impaling Thorns, it being AoE in Gorilla. It's just that the way content is now being so fast paced and being able to melee, it's not as beneficial as it once was. So old raids like Zooey when Machine first came out, Elite stuff like that, that's where Gorilla was going to be a lot better. And in terms of Gorilla loadout, same thing in Human, Serpent Call, Vine Lash, Briar. Gorilla form, I have Rampage and Harvest. Technically, it all depends, because once you're going to Gorilla, obviously you're not going back out of Gorilla and going back into it, because there's no... there's that, obviously, the 10% innate when you're in the form change, but obviously it's not like Wolf where you get extra crits at the beginning. So once you go in Gorilla, you're going to stay in Gorilla for the entire time unless you die. So you've got the option of using a supercharge before you go in. You could use Neo Venom Boost. You could use Carnivorous Plant. Sometimes that's not too bad. In my testing, it was lower. I've seen other people test and got like 260, 270k out of it. And it acts as Harvest, so that's handy as well. But essentially, you have the option. It's completely up to you if you want to risk it and squeeze out a bit more extra damage before you go into Gorilla, and then I use 100% super. So that's up to you if you want to use that. In terms of gear, obviously you're going to have Supercharged Gorilla Form 3 in your head, and then this one you would have. Just because I only have one chest, you would use the extended supercharge in Gorilla just so you got that 5% just to push a little bit extra, just in case you did die. Not that you should be dying once you go into it, but in case you do or the raid wipes, you want to push out as much supercharge as you can to get back into it. But essentially, the loadout, like I said, it's going to be that in Human, and then in Gorilla form, you're still going to have the 2 dots, Harvest for Voracious Plants, and Impaling Thorns, and Return to Normal. Once again, you have the option if you know you're not going to die, you can ditch the Return to Normal and add like another power in. But it's always safe just to keep that, just in case you want to go back into it. Once you reach 100% super, go back into it, use Rampage or use Neo Venom Boost, then go back into Gorilla. So you have those options if it's a longer raid. So for this one, obviously, once again with the parsers, Gorilla is going to be best when it reaches the 35% for Impaling Thorn. So I'm just going to keep doing this rotation until I get there, so you see what it's capable of at that point. But once again, these parsers aren't going to be, the absolute godsend, obviously, because I'm just refreshing dots on, obviously, sparring targets aren't going to die. But essentially, the rotation, going to be 1, 2, 3. Check Gorilla there. Harvest, and then just Voracious Plants until the and I forgot you should beginning, but You could also run like Carnage on here if you want for a little bit extra weapon tap damage, and then just clipping Carnage with Harvest every 12 seconds just to replay the dots. Possibility as well. And you see once you get into that range, you know, whatever we're getting into. But that's essentially, that's like the rotation that everyone's gonna know. That's the tried and true with Gorilla. Okay, this is going to be the single target rotation. This is the one that was created by Best Controller A, Kuro. This is the one that's going to throw some people for a loop, just how it's because it's set up. Obviously the same, Simmer Call, Vine Lash Briar, and Gorilla Form. Once again, I have a supercharge here. If you wanted to risk it and get a little bit extra push for damage at the beginning and know you're not going to die or wipe, then you could do that, but obviously it's a risk because you're using 100% super then instead of 50, so if you die or wipe, then you're screwed, you can't go back into Gorilla, so that's just a personal choice if you want to take that or not. Now in Gorilla Form, we're going to have Heat Vision, Carnage, Zip Tie Attack, Grapple Line Attack. These two are the acro movement innates. So Zip Tie Attack, Grapple Line Attack. These just happen to be some of the best single target powers in the game. So unfortunately, if you want to maximize your nature DPS, you're going to have to be Acrobatics. And then Harvest, and then Return to Normal here. So the main staple of this loadout is the Gorilla Weapon Tap damage, which I'll show in a moment. That's why head mod, I'm running Critical Carnage instead of the Gorilla Supercharge. And then the main difference is I have the Venom Wrist Dispenser, which is the Prec artifact. I'm not running the Tetrahedron, which means that I have 144 skill points into Precision instead of putting anything into Health, which puts my base Precision at 12,524, and then Might's at 33,031. So basically, I'm doing weapon tap damage between all my Gorilla taps. The other thing that I should mention is this loadout is also made much better by having the Troll buff, like the Troll Recharge buff. You get a Precision given out to that a part of the buff, and then the Cog buff, which is the DPS Precision artifact. Some tanks run it too, so if you do a cross weapon combo, which is basically a weapon mastery attack, everyone in the group gets Precision based on your health. So that's basically, you want to buff your Precision as much as you can for this to maximize your Gorilla taps. So what I mean by that is if we go into the loadout here, oops, don't do that. Let's go into Carnage and start doing weapon taps. 9k, 4,500. That was a 9k, 4,100, 33, because now the Venom Wrist Dispenser is not procced anymore. So going back into Carnage, 5k, 9k, 8,500, 4,500. So you get the idea there. So you're getting a lot of tap damage on single target with the Gorilla weapon taps, which is why you want to maximize and get as much prec as you can for that extra damage there. That's going to be unique only to Gorilla. And you'll see in the rotation here, this rotation will keep up with pretty much any Precision DPS out there. Not so much like Gadgets and a few of the other top ones, but the generic like Precision, Weapon Master DPS, it can keep up with those types of parsers. And I'm good. But you get the idea there. 19k obviously just with the transformation lag on human. Then I'm going to regular 24, 21, 23.5. So those types of parsers as might single target, those are right up there with precision based DPS. That's for sure. Okay, on to the nature healing discussion. Nature healing, I don't know, it's changed a lot since revamp. Like before revamp, it was just everyone in bug form. You're just basically taking as much vid as you can and just spamming power back, and you just keep spamming harvest. Um, Honestly, harvest was my least favorite move in the entire game. It was completely retarded that harvest, a nature healer, had better crowd control than any tank or controller, and it was perma cased harvest in bug form, getting all the power back. So I'm glad they changed aspects of it, but it did get the shaft in other situations at revamp, like nature healing. It's got no 8-man shield, and it's got no supercharge is really any good. So you're stuck. Basically, its heal over times are amazing. That's what nature's for. But you have a lot of heal over times, and you lack any kind of burst heal. So the way I view nature, it can still soul heal perfectly fine. A little bit harder in some situations because the revamp meta is based on shields. So like electric, water, everything you need shields for to survive attacks rather than like heal over times. It's basically become a burst heavy damage aspect. But nature is a great support heal as well. It's a lot more power conservative than say an electric. So if you've got like water nature, electric water, or electric nature kind of for support, it's great from that aspect. So in terms of the loadout, or I guess I should do the spec first. I do put a little bit into dominance, usually around 50 skill points into dominance, just to help with the my shield, the shield and the healing over time as well, because dominance is included in the healing formula. You don't go too crazy in dominance because it doesn't scale as well compared to obviously restoration. So obviously you want to max your healing crits and max your restoration. If you've got skill points after that, put like 30, 40 into dominance, then the rest into power. That's how I spec it, but it all depends on your skill points. In terms of loadouts, you might see a few variations. Basically, you're always going to have Swarm Shield, you're always going to have Flourish, you're always going to have Metabolism and Blossom. Where it might differ for some people is going to be Cross Pollination and Savage Growth. Cross Pollination, I still view it as a really great heal. It's a good burst. The range is short on it. Think of it like Galvanize as well. Very close ability. So if everyone's close, Cross Pollination is going to be great. It's great for hallways. The healing is going to increase per ad that it hits. So I prefer always running cross pollination. You may see some variations with Savage Growth. Some people run Bloom. I hate running Bloom just for the interruptibility, and it's not like the heal is that amazing on it anyway. But I just don't like running something that could be interruptible and mess you up there. In terms of, you might see some people use Roar. I'm personally not a fan of Roar. It's a little bit broken now, where it doesn't matter if there's a few ticks left in your pheromones or altogether 12. You're always going to get the same number of ticks back. The other thing with Roar is that because of how it's directional, the people need to be in front of you to get the healing as well. So it's basically if the group's not even close at all, you're way in the back and you hit Roar, or they're all behind you and hit Roar, they're not going to all get the healing over time. So it's some people use it as well as the same thing. It's going to wipe your pheromones. You have to reapply everything. So, and if you forget to do that as a nature healer, then it's you're having issues there. So really, there's way more drawbacks to Roar than there are positives. So it's not needed. And then the only other option is regeneration, which is the shield. And sorry, not the shield, the supercharge, which is basically just another heal over time. That's all it is. It's really the only situation I run regeneration. Sometimes I'll run it on Terra and Hive Elite Final Boss. Usually I don't, just because I'm fine for the heal over times already. I will run it in Deathstroke. With the icon suit with the explosion, I have to block through that, so I'd rather hit regeneration so that when the icon suit explodes, everyone's going to get the heal over time right away with regeneration because it's still a strong hot. So I like running it in that situation if I'm solo healing Deathstroke. That's about it. Other than that, I'd much rather have Metabolism, Savage Growth, Cross-Pollination, and Flourish being my hots, and then basically I just have Swarm Shield and Blossom for basically the burst heals from that. And in terms of trinkets, obviously, same thing. Healer Trinket, the Boo for a little bit of Resto. In terms of artifacts, Nature doesn't need the Scraps of Soul Cloak. I don't have the Omegahedron because I already have 7 160 artifacts, so I really can't afford the Omegahedron. So personally, if I was a healer, I would drop the Starheart and run the Omegahedron, Demon Fang, and Scrap of Soul Cloak in general. For Nature, since you're not using a supercharge, run the Omegahedron, Demon Fang, and the Starheart. Starheart's going to be proccing off Metabolism just for that extra health. It's not that great, but it's something. And then Demon Fang is great for power, self-power regen, and then obviously the Omegahedron is going to be great as well. So the Omegahedron and the Demon Fang is a very great combination. It's just that I'm not using a supercharge as Nature. So if I did have the Omegahedron, I would run it over a Soul Cloak, but since I don't have it, then this is the 3 that I'm running. And really just in terms of loadout, all I'm doing is I'm putting up my hots first, so I'll do Savage Growth, Blossom, Cross-Pollination, and then just use Flourish to keep refreshing it. Swarm Shield when I need it. So if I see, because I don't have that great of a burst ability, I usually keep Swarm Shield for situations where I see someone start to dip. So if I see someone start to dip, because since it's not an 8-man shield, I can't really use it proactively, using it just in case, like Water and Electric can. So once I see someone start to dip, then I'll hit Swarm Shield and then use Savage Growth, Metabolism Clip, or Flourish, something to get their burst up, or Blossom basically. So I'm trying to save my shields for those moments where someone's going to dip, and then I need like a second or two just in case multiple people are getting hit at once. So something to save that. So usually I'm using Swarm Shield more as like a rescue ability than I am with anything else. Just to give myself that bit of time, because I don't have like a bio cap. I don't have something that like I know for sure is going to get them back up very quickly. So I want to use that. So the shield is basically to give me a little bit of breathing room. But that's essentially all it is. And then I'll use like Solar Flame just to in between rotations. So Savage Growth, Blossom, Cross-Pollination, Flourish, just to get everything refreshed and moved around and spread. And then Blossom if I have to. If someone starts to get low, then I can do put out Swarm Shield, Flourish, and then Savage Growth, Blossom to get them up. Or that was Metabolism, sorry, not Blossom. But you'll see it in the healer footage. But essentially, that's what it is. The main difference is I'm not running Regeneration, not running Bloom. I've seen some people use Roar, not using that, just running the extra hot, because Regeneration, like, why run a supercharge? You're only going to use a few times in a raid, when I can run Savage Growth and use an extra hot the entire duration of the raid. So it's not, there's no point really to run Regeneration unless for very specific situations, and even then you don't really need it.
Hallowed by the slow fade, facing, pacing, tracing a dark shade, acting like you've never been believed, but the rings on your collar and the diamonds up your sleeve. Cause where you go, the fact is knowing you have got no hope before the down the middle. Shadows on the highway, twisting, talking, turning sideways. Down the middle, please. Down the middle, please. 'Cause when you go, the fact is, no, you ain't got no home before the down the middle. Keep moving from my bed into another's sheets. I'm tired of blaming myself for all your treacheries. I'm good enough without you. Matter of fact, I'm at my best. You won't keep pulling me down, 'cause I'm giving myself a rest from you. Might have taken me a while, but I know you ain't worth my time. Yeah, I'm through. I'm taking myself off your ride. Now watch me while I glide. Yeah, oh, watch me while I glide. Yeah, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night with you no more. I ain't gonna shy tongue-tied and take another lie, 'cause you were just a fly-by-night with me all along. So I'ma give myself a right to knock you out of my life, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night. I ain't gonna shy tongue-tied, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night. So I'ma give myself a right. Now I'm free and treating myself to the things you had me miss, 'cause it ain't your diamond rings that ever brought me bliss. Me and myself, yeah, we've got catching up to do. Don't need anybody else to love me like I do. To love me like I do. Yeah, oh, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night with you no more. I ain't gonna shy tongue-tied and take another lie, 'cause you were just a fly-by-night with me all along. So I'ma give myself a right to knock you out of my life, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night with you no more. I ain't gonna shy tongue-tied and take another lie, 'cause I ain't gonna fly by night. So I'ma give myself a right to knock you out of my life. Fly by night. exhausted and our lungs worn out, fighting for our rights. The powers that be were breathing down our backs, and we cried out, and he heard us. Yeah, he heard us. 68, we rushed the gate, we welcome you to the new America. 68, we rushed the gate, we welcome you to the new America. Welcome you to the new America. To the new America. With a 22 caliber shotgun down, hanging at his side. Took away our men in Washington, but he can't take our pride. We cross our hearts and pray to the Lord his soul to keep. And we keep marching, keep marching, keep marching. 68, we rush the gate, we welcome you to the new America. 68, we rush the gate, we welcome you to the new America. Bobby cannot, he never dies, he lives in our hearts. He lives in our hearts. Bobby cannot, he never dies, he lives in our hearts. He lives in our hearts. I'm 21, but I never had a clue. I'm hanging here just to try and play it cool. Ran out of time, I can barely make it through. Booze down my throat, I see waves of changing hues. The smoke and sky, yeah, the streams of flowing stars. The glimmer of light, travel miles and miles afar. Into our eyes, they discovered where we are. We'll never know, cause we're a million years apart. Drowning ripples of pounding sea, trapped and choking in my nicotine. Cause I'm losing all my sanity, I'll overrun my memories. I can't take this new reality, I can feel my own gravity. I'm still looking for my clarity, deep inside my memories. I'm 21, babe. say you're chained to the city's vicious pace. The more you give only means the more they take. So you decided not to wake up every day. Here comes a storm, you're just gonna let it rain. My skull is cracking, I can read another page. You turn around, seeing nothing else to see. Bury your senses, you can feel it anyway. Then turn your cheek when they slap you on the face. Drowning ripples of pounding sea. Trapped and choking in my nicotine. Cause I'm losing all my sanity. Over my memories. I can't take this new reality. I can feel my own gravity. I'm still looking for my clarity. Memories. I'm 21, babe. Quickly I fell deep into your skin. Somehow I lost control. Now the cautious dive down with me to come undone. Stay the night, stay up till morning sun. And know that I will always follow, follow, follow. Follow, follow, follow. Baby, can I always follow, 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 follow? I walk until my body's sore. Take me to your homes before. If I lose you after light, I'll be still and sit real quiet. Your voice will guide me home at night. I know, follow, follow. I know, if I lose you, voice will guide me. Follow, follow. I know, if I lose you, baby, can I always follow, follow? I know, if I lose you, I'll do my life. Follow, follow. I know, if I lose you, boys will guide me. Dying inside to feel a touch of you. Dance through my mind all night. Something about you feels nice. A little taste of your sins. Lost track of time just listening. Your hands make me feel warm. We followed walls and ran down city streets. Careless, I saw the world like magnets on our skin. And in a sense, we're innocent, bright and pure, no hesitance. Baby, can I always follow, 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 follow? I walk until my body's sore. Take me to your homes before. Dreamt about you the other night. You stayed with me today. The sun was warm, it caressed my skin. You wouldn't go away. Infrared light, smooth light, just right. Infrared light, smooth light, just right. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. We sat still in the perfect light and watched the sun go down. It faded into an endless line as my thoughts swirled around. Infrared light, smooth light, just right. Infrared light, smooth light, just right. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, you lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, lay me in that glow. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah, you came to my lips. Yeah,
Seen this movie before, know the lines and therefore I know how it ends. What happens depends on whether you're smart enough and play it tough and keep your head cold. If you plan to get old, steady and cool, get no chance to say no. Head over heels, I forgot how it feels. It seems I have lost the game and I've got no one else to blame. Raise a glass for the hopelessly down, who feel it up, refill my glass till I'm numb. Raise a glass for the hopelessly down, who feel it up, refill my glass till I'm numb. perfection. Today's no exception. My feet on the ground, I don't wait to be found. Ain't meaning at all. I ain't gonna fall. But my constant thinking disappears when I'm drinking. So okay, will you stay away? Raise a glass for the hopelessly down. Who will feel it up? Refill my glass till I'm numb. Raise a glass for the hopelessly down. Who will feel it up? Refill my glass till I'm numb. Raise a glass for the hopelessly down. Who will feel it up? Refill my glass till I'm numb. Raise a glass for the hopelessly down. Who will feel it up? Refill my glass till I'm numb. Bright big eyes with a curious mind, born to follow skies, not stick around. A place so dim, I have lost the light, and I don't feel right, can't feel a thing. I don't have that much to lose, I'm leaving it all behind for good. Not made to play by the rules, running fast as I can tonight. I'm run down, run away, leave it all behind. Never look back, had to get out. Walk a new path on the moon, never satisfied. We'll just go where the sunlight goes. Held my breath as I walked away, so the wind I chased filled up my lungs. A place so dim, I have lost the light. I was only ever heavy back in a place called home. So I don't have that much to lose, I'm leaving it all behind for good. Not made to play by the rules, run